like a copy of that vibe?
Oh.
Sounds great. Guitarist had passed away by this time. So, in order to play for Lucy, she had to sing the guitar parts in between the voice parts. So, inspired by that performance, I've made a guitar version where I play the guitar parts and the guitar plays the singing parts. And somewhere out there, maybe we meet in the ether as a real live duo. Sadly, she passed away a few years ago after being kind of a recluse for about almost 30 years. Very rarely leaving the house and never playing. But her record is one of the first of a very important series of Malian records. I'm very pleased that Dory's given me such a good introduction to my music. It means I can spend a concert complaining about my flight yesterday. It was really remarkably shit. Like literally the worst. I've never had anything. I've flown a lot. That was just the worst ever. I did 20,000 steps in the airport, mostly running. It's really a miracle to be here. I was quite surprised, actually. But once I finally made it onto the plane, they rewarded me with an 11-hour flight, which was marvelous. So this is a piece called Jeremy. This part I'm playing now is called a convengo, and it can be played in all sorts of variations. You can do this, and it's really so that I can talk to you or sing for you, not me. They call it's the legs of the piece. And Dory mentioned Toumani Diabate, who was the first kora player I discovered, was coming from Cape Town. You know, we have about 100% less kora players than you do. I first heard Toumani Diabate on an album that he made when he was just 21. And what was parts, it would usually be relegated to different members of an ensemble. Or perhaps the kora player would play the first two parts, which is often the space line, let's say, depending on the piece. And that would happen in his left-hand thumb, because the kora is a 21-string harp and it has two lines of strings going like along this way and this side, and you play thumb and index finger on both sides. So this would be his left-hand thumb. Right-hand thumb would do what's kind of rhythm guitar sections, right? And then you've got the index fingers, and they can do a third part. So this is pretty standard kora. It's been going on for about as long as the classical guitar, like 200 or so years, in its present form. Although the music of the griots goes back to the time of the Magna Carta. And one of the roles of the griot is to keep the genealogies of families. So usually, you'd find a member in the audience who looked like they probably had the best bank account, and then you would, tell the history of their family, which I imagine is probably quite boring for everybody else in the room, especially because they probably heard it before as well. So there's this form of improvisation called tingo, which kind of breaks the monotony and just wakes everyone up, and it's this kind of thing like, now you're back, and I can carry on telling you all about this lady's wonderful life, her great-grandfather and great-grandfather before that. So what Toumani did was he took this part, this kumbengo, and he made the chorus sing at the same time, made it tell the stories. So like this. here a few months ago, playing in Berkeley with Guy. That's right. I was going to be playing there, and then I asked them if they could please have my friend come and play with me, because it turned out he was going to be in town. Because it turned out he was going to be here. And the funny thing is, you know, Guy and I, we live in South Africa. So you think, you know, we spend a lot of time together, but we live very far away. It's like it's about a 15-hour drive. And you know, as much as I love Guy, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. So we see each other very, very often, and very, very infrequently, and we very rarely played together. So the album that Dory mentioned, if he mentioned it live in Cape Town, was actually our first ever concert together. It was in 2019, even though we've known each other for ages. You wouldn't say if you saw pictures of us, but actually Guy's much younger than me. Not the other way around. You know. So I remember when he came, you know, into the scene as a young whippersnapper of, you know, 19 or something. And I went to see a concert of his. He was playing like a chip shop or something. And it's the first time I've been in a chip shop and they pulled out an electric sitar and done a 15-minute solo. It was beautiful, loud, 19-year-olds. This is a tune by Salif Keita. It's called Annaming, which is, I'm told, something about pineapple with mildly sexual overtones. But I'm leaving out the words. So. This next tune is called Duga. It's an older kora piece than Toumani's. It's from the 70s, well, recorded in the 70s. You know, nobody knows where any of these pieces are from or who wrote them. It's kind of all intermingled. But the recording that I learned it from, it was played by a kora player called Baturu Seku, who was very much an influence on Toumani's music. And I played it for you just so you can hear a kind of older version of the kora. I think of this as kora's disco era, 71. Well, the nice thing is that Baturu Seku tuned his kora really high as well, so you've got this really kind of cutting sound, and it has a little bit more of a call and response. You know, it's not like Toumani where everything's integrated like this. It's more like the accompaniment, and it drops away, so you hear that kind of conversation that I mentioned. And story-wise, it's Duga is a vulture. So you can hear in the music the story of the vulture. It's very light, happy kind of piece, and it's about vultures that clean the bodies of dead people after a battle, which is lovely. And it's got this kind of feel to it. 2,500 meters up. Meters are similar to feet, just longer. I say meters because I was in Canada at the time, and they're very modern and they use the metric system. They're quite close to you guys, so there are some hangovers from the past, like they still use checks. It's quite frequent. Anyway, I went walking up in this mountain. It was last year because I wanted to go swimming in a glacier lake. Everyone gets super excited and goes and has a traffic jam up the mountain. So this was a great experience for me, and it was wonderful. And the wonderful thing about it is, you travel so far west of Canada, and then far up and walk the mountain the whole day and get to the top, 2,500 meters up, had the swim. Right at the top of the mountain, there's an Australian. What the hell? So like literally as far as he could have possibly been from Australia. But that's Australians for you. And so I got talking to this guy, and he was very knowledgeable. I actually originally started talking to him because he had like a big pick, like an ice pick, and I started getting worried. I thought, like, should we have brought ice picks as well? But he explained that they were climbing up even further. He told me about the moss, and that's the point of the story. He said that the moss at the top of the mountain, if you stepped on it, would take 40 years to regrow. So I got to thinking about the creative process, and how sometimes I'll have a bad idea and I'll just throw it away. And I thought, well, if it takes 40 years, for moss to become moss, then maybe I need to be a bit nicer to myself. So I went down the mountain, back to Calgary, where I was looking after a very large cat. And I wrote down a very bad piece of music that I really hated. And when I woke up the next morning, the cat had ripped it into thousands of pieces. And this started the process of just changing and living with this bad idea. The South African artist William Kentridge, he calls it the less good idea. He actually has a center in Johannesburg called the Center for the Less Good Idea. So this is 1 year into my 40-year process. So I hope you enjoy yourself. Coast because I've spent about a decade on the East and in weird places like Albuquerque and stuff, and not come here very often. And when I did come, I thought, okay, it's a little bit like Cape Town, so that's fine. And I'm starting to get it now. I went to Ansel Adams' exhibition today. Just to like go deep.
You see Kehinde Wiley, no?
Excuse me?
Did you see the Kehinde Wiley exhibit?
Oh, the one up top there? I didn't. There was a lot of walking involved, and as I said, I had this horrible time in the airport yesterday. But I can go back. The reason I went to the Adams one is because I've recently taken up black and white photography as a way of amusing myself during traveling. And so, as I was coming in from the airport, I saw the poster. I thought, I've got to do that. So that's the first thing I did when I woke up this morning. But yeah, it seems like a good place you guys have found here. Hope you're enjoying it. I've benefited a lot from the literature, things that have gone on here. I think, Guy, talk about Guy again. Why are we talking about Guy so often? I never talk about Guy at my concerts ever. He's like a big mountaineer, he loves bird watching and all that. And I think there are two kinds of people who spend a lot of time up mountains. There's the Guy type who, people who have a genuine love for nature and birds, and then there's the other type that read Jack Kerouac's Dharma Bums, and liked, spent their early 20s boiling beans in caves and things to emulate the greats. And I'm that latter type. I hate the birds. I hate them, but I hate being stopped by people when you're walking and they go, oh, look at that. It's very worse. The Guy is absolutely one of those people. Oh, Christ, can't we just keep walking? You've got friends like this. I've got another friend who's into trees. That's actually worse. At least the birds fly away. So I'm going to play something from Cape Town. Not actually from Cape Town, more from the Eastern Cape, which is to the east of the Cape. A clever name. But since the 1980s, this musician, whose name is Madusini, she lived in Cape Town until December last year, when she passed away. Her passport said she passed away at around about 100, but she admitted to me once that she changed her birth date so that she could get the old age grant earlier. And it made sense probably when she was 40 or so, but once she got to 70, it started to look a bit suspicious. And she plays an instrument called the mkhube, which is a mouth bow, probably one of the oldest instruments. There's pictures of it in France from 35,000 years ago. So everything I'm going to play now comes from a single string. She captures the notes of the string, these harmonics in each string. She captures them in her mouth and she does this beautiful overtone whistling. It's wonderful. And the piece is probably thousands and thousands of years old. It's called I Like the Motor Car.
more like a 15, outside 20. Bathrooms are over there. CD giveaways are over here. CDs to purchase, although at the end he'll come out and actually, you know, be able to sign CDs or whatever. But there are 2 CDs there. One is a transcription of Kora, and the other is of Bach. So those are the 2 CDs. I want to tell you also, he played a song called Duga. Remember he played Duga? And he also said there's the album with Guy Buttery that's called Live in Cape Town. That one gets 5 stars for tangential universe music, okay? That can't be beat. It's unbelievable. And Duga is on that album in like a 13-minute version that starts with sitar. And that's on Bandcamp. So if you Google Derek Ripper Live in Cape Town Bandcamp, you'll get right to it and be able to purchase it. Because it's not here tonight, he didn't bring it. But that is the album, for me, that is amazing.
Did you play that last Saturday night?
I did.
Yeah.
That was the Mystery Artist song. It was Duga. I played for the Mystery Artist. Okay, I'm going to give some CDs away now because I like to. Hey, Will, good to meet you, man. All right. Okay, for those of you who want to participate in the CD giveaway, is there enough interest?
Sure.
Lori,
Sure, yeah.
cassette person.
You are a cassette person? Okay, right away. Mitch Watkins, are you into, listen, this is just good music. You have good ears?
Huh?
You have good ears. You appreciate it. Mitch Watkins, guitar player, Bob Berg on sax, and Dennis Chambers, hell of a drummer, who's played with a lot of great players. Mitch has turned into a producer. I just think it's good. Okay. Okay. Can I borrow your cassette deck sometime?
I don't have one, but my roomie has one, and I can find one.
Bingo!
No,
No, it's okay.
You can borrow mine, Lori.
Okay.
Just force me to do that one.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, first question is fill in the blank. Fill in the blank. By the way, you can't look up these answers. Especially you. You cannot look them up and feel good about yourself. Okay, fill in the blank from the infamous Derek Ripper bio. He transcribed note for note the complex compositions of Malian kora player Toumani Diabate. I say Diabate to D. In West Africa, they say G. When you Americanize it, it's Diabate, but in West Africa, they say Diabate. And find a way of playing them on 6-string guitar. The results appeared on his 9th album, One Night on Earth, where Bill is standing. Bill, there you go. One Night on Earth. It was recorded with an orchestra of blank. Parenthetically, who he did not invite. Crickets! Wow! Pat Court, ladies and gentlemen. That is Pat Court. Holy shit, how'd you know that? It was in the... Because you read it in your Okay. I'm giving you 3 choices. No. 3 choices. This guy's an incredible fingerstyle guitar player who's retired and now not even doing it, but he's amazing. As good. He's like Chet Atkins to beat Michael Head. You know, I mean, whatever. I mean, he's an unbelievable fingerstyle guitar player. This is Asian music from Louisiana, and this is Italian music. We call CGS. what was it? Grecanito, what was it? Salentino, I don't know. The S is Salentino. What's the C? I forget. G is Grecanito. Anyway, CGS from Italy, very good band. Cajun or John Danley on the fingerstyle guitar. So take the John Danley. All right, next question. Crickets. So there are two composers besides Bach and besides people who grew up in South Africa. There are two other composers who are very, very much influences on Derek. And one is Egberto Gismonte from Brazil. The other is a composer from Estonia. Who is it? Yes. You win. He has to say it louder though.
Afropop.
Yeah, spelled P-A-R-T. Afropop. Hard to pronounce it. Okay, so you've got the CGS, the Italian band. You also have a guy who is the, can't even remember now. This is a culture that is disappearing in Central America. Why can't I think of the name? Aurelio Martinez is one of the great preservers of this culture that he's basing on. But it's phenomenal. He's really, really good. And then for the third one, since I don't think Adrian is turning people on right now, I'm going to go with an album that for some reason I am credited on for compile and sequencing. This is from way back when, in 1996. It's a collection of the finest in San Francisco Bay Area jazz. X.25 jazz sampler from a Persian label called X.25. So Italian, Central America, really Guatemala, Honduras, Belize kind of indigenous music. And it's, can't think of the style of music, or the Italian.
We'll go to San Francisco jazz.
Don't play either. Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Third question, and he can win again. What is the capital of Estonia?
Tallinn.
You are a winner. That's amazing. That was great. Okay. This is the motion picture soundtrack to Babel with the amazing Gustavo Santaolalla, who's a phenomenal composer. This is a really good soundtrack. South American more sounds, but it's also some eclectic sounds on it. We've got the Italian, and we've got Aurelio Rodriguez, who is very fine, but I'm not doing him justice by not remembering the.
Look at the soundtrack.
It's in the soundtrack. You got it.
The culture that's disappearing, did we hear the name? Is it Garifuna?
Garifuna.
Yeah, Garifuna.
Garifuna music. Thank you. This is Amrit, who I already gave a CD to earlier. It looks like it was another one. Garifuna. Garifuna. G-A-R-U-N. I-F-A. Garifuna music. Okay. So the next one is fill in the blank. Speaking about Guy Buttery, because I always have to speak about Guy Buttery. He's from Durban, which is again a 1,500 miles. I don't know what he said. Hour drive to Cape Town. Durban has the highest concentration of what ethnicity outside of that country?
India.
Oh, we've got a runoff. We've got a runoff. Wow, who said India? Like 4 people.
Yeah, he deserves it.
Now, wait a minute. Does he deserve to win if Guy Buttery had stayed over his house?
I think even more so because I've been contributing to the arts and
Does anyone think he shouldn't win because Guy Buttery and he had friends? No? All right, let's get a CD. CEO, who also has played live with Guy Buttery.
right here. Yes. Oh, thank you.
This is Eric Bibbs. You know Eric Bibb, the blues player?
I don't.
Do you like blues guitar?
Sure.
Okay, Eric Bibb's really good, and the title track is great. This is his new album, Ryan. All right. We'll go a couple more. Okay, this place, Clarion Performing Arts Center, was, if not the first in the country, one of the first in the entire United States to sell didgeridoo. Avram said it first. Avram Mednick, right there, ladies and gentlemen, by a split second, won it over whomever else. Avram he's won a lot of mystery contests on the champions. Avram, what am I going to do for you? You want a King Crimson thing? You like King Crimson?
Yeah.
What?
Yes.
Tell me if you have this, and if not, take it.
Well, I like this, thank you.
All right. This is not only CD giveaway, this is customization to the person, without any algorithms or anything. All right. And let's do one more. Okay, I like this one because finally we get into politics. Name one of the two members of the Israeli government who are ultra-Jewish supremacist, racist, ultra-nationalists who would like to ethnically cleanse Palestinians from all of historic Palestine.
Bibi Netanyahu.
No. And who am I thinking of?
Ben Gurion.
Ben Gurion is long dead. I'm talking about in the government now. In the government now, who really have pushed Netanyahu to do these raids against Palestinians and encourage the settlers to burn their villages. Really? Wow. Okay. No, Sharon's long dead too. Okay, so number one, flaming racist who would like to just have all Palestinians disappear from Earth so that Israel can take over all of historic Palestine. It's Itamar Ben-Gvir. He's a former convicted terrorist in Israel who's now a member of the government. And the other one is Bezalel Smotrich, who wants to build settlements everywhere on steroids and controls the lives of Palestinians and Israelis in the West Bank. Both of them want to have a second Nakba, which happened in 1948, which ethnically cleansed Palestinians from a lot of Israel.
And Bibi lets them do it.
And Bibi lets him do it. Yeah, you got a cassette. Okay, I think it's been about 10. You want to do a couple more? You want to let's get. Okay, let me actually do one thing. Clara Sue, as the proprietor of Clarion Performing Arts Center, I think she should tell you a little bit about this place because it's not just a live music place. It is a community resource unlike any other in all of San Francisco. Clara Sue, come on here.
I live with this guy, and he still doesn't get it right.
That's why I bring her upstairs.
I'm not the owner of Clarion Performing Arts Center.
She's the executive
I'm
director.
the executive director. That's a
But
difference.
I said that the first time, but I wanted to promote you the second time.
That's the difference because we are a non-profit organization. So I don't own this place, but I did start out with my father 41 years ago. And the space started as a music shop. And we sold musical instruments from all over the world. Because of the pandemic, we changed a little bit. We no longer teach music or sell musical instruments, but we turn into a performing arts center. And we have the only children theater program in this whole entire neighborhood and beyond. And so we have our children's theater program, which I'm very proud of. I started it 2 years ago. It's for the SRO students, families, and new immigrants.
They don't know what those students mean. What does that mean?
SRO means low income, single family occupancy families. And so we have nearly 30 students now, which is wonderful. And they get to perform in the street fair, they get to perform outside and in here. So that's what we do. We also have music on Saturdays and film screening and poetry reading once a month. And we also have community potluck. So that means anybody can come here if you bring a piece of cake or something, full of rice, you can come here and eat with us. So I have cards on the table, so you can take a card, and then everything is QR code now except me. You scan the QR code, you can see our website and see all the events that we have there. So if we are surviving on grant money right now because we don't really have an income. And so, if you know of a rich uncle or something, please tell him. We need his support. I also want to tell you about the Showgirl Magic Museum, because after we shut down because of COVID, we turned all the piano studios into a museum, and the museum is downstairs. And it has exhibit of the Chinatown nightclub era, starting from 1940s to 1970s. And so there's a lot of photos, a lot of historical items that you can look at. And we're still keeping that history alive. I am with a group of women, senior women, and we call ourselves Grant Avenue Follies. And so we still perform and try to keep that part of history alive. So if you want to, I don't know if you have...
We don't have time now, but afterwards,
Oh,
if there's
maybe
time.
afterward, anybody wants to go down, I'd love to show you.
Okay, now, one thing she's really bad at, I live with this person, but she's really bad at, is asking for money. She doesn't even know how to do it.
Well,
Okay.
I have him, so.
It survives on grants, but a lot of individual donations. That really is important to keep a place like this going, particularly in this time of 2023 in the world that we're living with. It's really hard to get grant money. If you can give a little bit more than what you gave with the ticket, because only a little bit goes to most of it goes to, Derek obviously deserves to get most of it, but she's not charging much rent for this, let me just say that. So, in fact, she reminds me of that all the time. So, pass this around, if you can give a little bit, that's great. I also think that if you want to put something into your phones and then watch it later and get an example of the Grant Avenue Follies, I want you to Google Gaimoso Rap. G-O-U...
No, G-A-I.
G-A-I-M-O-U-S. We rehearsed this routine. Go ahead, say it.
G-A-I.
G-A-I...
M-O-U.
M-O-U-S-O-U. G-A-I-M-O-U-S-O-U Rap. Omar Sosa did part of the music, by the way. And,
Yeah, made us famous.
he just happened to be hanging out with the guy who was producing it, staying at his house, and he just made it great. And it ended up putting this, it just became, viral on the internet, and she's been on all these national talk shows because of it. It's really great. This was when Asian hate was really happening horribly here, and it was a way to basically say no to Asian hate through this wonderful video, Gaimoso Rap. Okay, so I think we've covered our bases, and let's get everyone back in that wants to come back, or where are they?
I want to come back.
You want to come back? He can come back. Remember, we will do a Q&A afterwards. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you for your ears and your heart. And thank you, Derek Ripper, for getting here.
Thank you very much. cello, originally for cello. That last little piece
Yes.
was by the composer Afropop. It's called Spiegel im Spiegel, Mirror in the Mirror. And it's written for cello and piano, or violin and piano. And when I first sent it to him via his son, who does a lot of his things, he said he didn't think the guitar had the necessary resonance for his music. Classical musicians, yeah, they certainly should. I've been playing West African music for 10 years or more, and I know nothing about West Africa. I didn't go to university for 9 years and study West African music like I did with classical music. And no one's ever been mean to me. They're just like, wow, that's cool. And even when I get it wrong, they're like, oh, cool, how do you do it like that? You know, there's like this real sort of inclusivity. And then the classical guys are like, no, I'm supposed to be on piano. Anyway.
The middle
The
section.
nice thing is that when you publish a piece of music, anybody can play it, and there's nothing you can do about it. So I uploaded it on the internet, and it's actually had like 2 million streams or something. So soon it's going to be like, yeah, that guitar piece, they're also playing it on piano now, it's great. I'm going to play you a guitar piece now.
Derek, you did play like 3 songs in one, right? What was that middle one? I like that one.
They were the rest of all my pieces. I think. From a record of mine called The Sound of Water,
Remember the name of it?
back in 2011. Good old days of 2011. Donald Trump was a bad TV. I don't even know who he was. I went to Chicago around that time, played at the World Music Festival, and I remember going for a walk as I left my hotel, and they had this big building, and it had these big gold letters on Trump, and I was like, he must be an arsehole, like, who's this guy? And Google, you know, checked it out, and that was my first, you know, I knew nothing about this, a little bit. Sorry, I don't want to bring that up.
You're safe.
Yeah, we were all waiting. We're counting on you guys. They won't let the rest of us vote. We do have to deal with the consequences. So just be nice. This is a piece called 56. It's by the great guitarist from northern Mali, Ali Toure. comes from a one-string guitar, and the whole sensibility of how he approaches the six string really grows out of that. And he said he's been trying his whole life. He was trying his whole life to find all the sounds on the one-string guitar on the six string, and he hadn't quite got there. Yeah, so this is a great piece to kind of illustrate that. It's called Sherry or Bakoi, depending on which publisher published which recording. Experiment to see if I could do it all without using my phone. So I wrote everything down on a piece of paper with a pen, and everything went really well. Obviously I had a computer, so if, I could still communicate with the world, but the thing was not to have the phone as this, to like plan before. So it went great until I got to, I was in a taxi from Manhattan to JFK, and I thought I would reward myself because I was going home now, and I would check which gate I was leaving from, because it always helps if they drop you off at the right one, right? So, and I hadn't yet done. So I checked, and unfortunately my flight had left a number of hours before, because I left out one of the numbers or added an extra number. I don't remember. So I had a place to stay, and I went back to it quietly without telling anybody. And I had the most, I have 4 children. I had the most delightful 3 or 4 days ever, because I wasn't on tour, didn't have to make any, I couldn't get home, there was just no way. I looked at all the possible flights, there was only one in 4 or 5 days. So I was alone with no purpose for the first time in 20 years. And it was really, really wonderful time. I wandered around, I bought a pen, things like that. Drank little strange Italian concoctions of herbs and alcohol. And I went down into the rabbit hole of, oddly enough, Ed Sheeran, because my children were at an Ed Sheeran concert, which was their first big concert that they'd ever gone to. So and I was like, who the hell is this guy? And so I did a lot of Googling, and I got quite fascinated that he was playing a guitar by himself. He was playing in these big places. And so that's what I did really for those days. And I played a lot of guitar. And I wrote this piece, and I called it Seeing Nobody. And I went home, and they locked me away for 4 months, because it was COVID, and we weren't allowed to leave the premises. We weren't allowed to walk our dog for 3 months. It was quite, and I was alone in my house with 4 teenagers for 3 months. We didn't step across the threshold of the house. We had we had like a grocery order, and that was it. And we couldn't walk the dog. We had to like run him around there, the alleyway around the house. It was crazy. You couldn't buy alcohol. It was like, you remember when they did that here? We had that for about a year, mostly on and off. There was no alcohol and no cigarettes. I don't smoke, but the cigarettes was a weird thing. It was actually because the health minister's son was very involved in the black market cigarette trade. So he did really well for that year. But yeah, no alcohol until we found Giuseppe, who would drop off whatever you needed. Giuseppe was great, but it took a few months for Giuseppe to come into my life. So anyway, so it was a sort of seeing nobody, it was a prophecy of sorts. First time that I've had CDs at a concert for a number of years now, because as you all know, compact disc this great place locally that printed these for me. The one is One Night on Earth, which is the first kora album, music of the kora, and it's a duet between myself and a large orchestra of crickets. I think you heard about earlier. And then the other record is a Bach record that I made in 2017. You know, playing Bach is a little bit like trying to go out drinking with your parents. You know, it's like it's very hard to be uninhibited. And so this has been my lifelong project, you know, to go out and get drunk and have a good time with my mother, to play Bach in a way that doesn't make me feel tense. And that one was getting there, so enjoy it. This is a piece called Concoba. Toumani and their fathers were famous players in Mali. And what Balake has done with the kora these days is just incredible. He's got a beautiful album with a cellist called Vincent Segal. And we just made a record together which will be out by the end of the year, I think. And in March we will be at the Fragrance Salvage. And I'll be at SF Jazz in April 26th. Informally as we all mill around so that people who need to go can go. We're starting now.
Well, I want to know about your tuning choices.
Yeah.
And especially, particularly the one about the monks, but also just in general, how you arrive at that.
If you're familiar with lutes and guitarist music, the old music, it's all about hearing open strings against closed strings. And modern guitar music kind of uses the guitar fretboard as a keyboard, and you've kind of got the notes everywhere, you know? So my whole style is a little bit like the old early music approach, where I always want to be hearing open strings. So I just tune things until I've got the strings that I want, where they're open. When I made the kora music, I decided I wasn't going to tune the guitar. I was just going to listen to the music and tune. So that's what I did.
You don't have a particular tuning that you like to use for this type of music versus this. You just tweak it so you hear
I don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea. Yeah, I don't even know what, like half the time I don't know what notes they are.
And even in like the one you played about the moss, like you don't know what that tuning was.
I know what the tuning is.
Oh.
It's E flat, A, D, G, B flat, F, going from the bottom.
Okay.
Yeah, I do know. That tuning came from a piece by Toru Takemitsu. He wrote a piece in E flat, B flat, so E flat, B flat. And then I extended it to make it an F. But it actually originally was another piece and blah, blah, blah. So that came from an improvisation where I probably just put the guitar in that tuning and improvised something and recorded it for an album called Billy Goes to Durban. And that, I wanted to relearn that. I wanted to learn that improvisation. And so I tried to transcribe it. And I lasted about 2 minutes and I got really bored, so I wrote something else. instead, and that was that. That was a similar piece to that, and then the change. Yeah. So it's
Wow.
just turn the knobs. Yeah.
Same vein, actually, as a guitarist, I'm curious about what first got you started changing tuning. Because a lot of people get a guitar, it's EAT, GBE, and they don't go from.
Well, that's what it's. You get it like that in the shop. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like you're changing your toes and learning different dances. You know?
I didn't change tunings much in my first 10 years of recording and writing. I didn't do much tuning change, and I think it was, like doing the kora music and realizing that had to be retuned, and then I did one day I recorded a Bach and a kora album together in the same day, and I noticed that the Bach, which was in standard tuning, just sounded really flat. You know, it didn't sound great, and so then I was like, okay, I'm going to relearn everything. And so I started retuning the Bach as well. I would start before, but then I think, this is not worth it. This is too much work. But it kind of is. Yeah.
So, and did I put your bio correctly that you played viola as well?
Yeah, sort of badly. Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask if the viola has found its way to Mali as well.
My viola hasn't. No. My kora might be in Mali by now. But no. I mean, viola for me is, I don't play it very much like an instrument anymore. I use it like as a bow more, so like finding the harmonics and the sounds and stuff. I'm usually overdubbed in things, but it's a very, very rare thing. Although I did just buy new strings for it for the first time in 20 years. So I'm kind of excited about that. They sound really good. So, hey.
Yeah, to start the concert, but to start off, thank you very much. It was phenomenal. To start the concert this evening, you were talking about people reciting the ancestry. I wanted to know if you could talk a bit more about that, but particularly as it relates to if the kora has any connection to the Dogon people, and furthermore, what if any connection there is to storytelling, and then one bit more is if any of the aforementioned has a connection to the predecessors to hip-hop writing and the history of storytelling with rhythm arriving on the East Coast.
So first of all, as a disclaimer, like I'm very much not the right person to ask any of these questions to. Like my knowledge of kora music is a little bit like what my knowledge of Germany at Bach's time is. You know, it's sketchy at best. You know, so like I've never, and when I first met Lucy Duran, who's the person you should ask this question to, she said, you know, she would say to me, oh, but you've read this, and I'd go, no, and she goes, but you've read this, and you've listened to this, and I would just say, no, I haven't, you know. I heard one album that I really liked, just like I liked it, like 3 collections of Bach's music, and I kind of hyper-focus on that. But as a result, of course, I hear things, so I can vaguely answer your question, which is that Dogon, no, the griots are like their own caste of musicians, and they were kind of the ruling class of the Manding Empire's, court musicians. So they're kind of separate from this more like folk traditions, and they're kind of seen in a particular light, like sometimes quite a negative light by the other musicians because they're the establishment, you know. So they like, you know, they'll say whatever they, you know, and it's very much about like this hierarchy of payment, and you know, there's this whole thing. So you know, and you know, if you don't pay up the thing, then you can be cursed down. You know, there's lots of this kind of financial transactional thing, and the history and the holding of history and the owning of history. It's very specific. So I think coming up from outside, there's that kind of view that they're really the gatekeepers. So yeah, and then of course griots aren't only musicians. They don't have to be musicians necessarily. They can also, you know, they can hold different offices, but it's all kind of mixed. But you know, the head griot that I met in Mali wasn't a musician. So you know, so I think the storytelling, genealogy, it all kind of melds together. Someone had the great idea of, you know, accompanying story and thing with music, and I think this thing of like Toumani, for example, becoming like a musician completely, that's kind of a new thing. You know, like his album in '87 was the first instrumental solo kora album, and his dad's was the first, in the '60s, was the first instrumental, like 2 or 3 choras. So like taking it away from words is, I think, a fairly new thing. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Are any of your children musicians?
I'm working on it. My eldest two not. My 19-year-old just started cello 2 years ago, and is like playing like, you know, the bird on the water songs and stuff, and loving it. I've never heard her because she has an outside room, and I've never heard her play, but she really enjoys it. She goes to a lesson once a week, so who knows. And then my youngest daughter's always played the piano. It's weird, like of all instruments, but she loves it and she's very good with her ears. We haven't yet found where she can go with it because she doesn't like reading, even though she's super analytical. So she just refuses to really learn to read. So classical hasn't, jazz, you know. So she's just playing, and she's doing it as a subject at school, but that's really making her hate it. So, and then my son is quite an cognitively interesting character, and he plays very nice electric guitar sometimes. Yeah, it's got great rhythm. We'll see. Answer is no.
I was curious about when you play, there's certain times when you sing, kind of your vocalizing. Is that part of your, and it was mostly, I think, in the kora songs. But I noticed is that just a way for you to kind of become, well, what's the singing part?
Yeah, I do. When I'm playing by myself, I sing a lot, because like, I don't know, I think it's nice, like you get that sort of push of the voice, something happens, you know, even if it's not very tuneful, so I repress it a little bit when I'm performing to other people, so as not to ruin their experience of music. But in early recordings, when I was making my own music a lot, it was very simple. I was making very simple music, and I would catch the melodies that I heard coming out, and I would sing those. And that was a thing, although now the range of my voice has changed, and also I use a capo, so somehow my voice doesn't actually fit anymore to the guitar sometimes, so I don't do it as much because I can't get those notes anymore or something.
Hi. When you're studying kora, was it more of an oral tradition, learning by ear and just here's the piece, repetition, or do they theorize and have like a theoretical system as well that was just harder?
So again, I mean, you know, this is not something that I would be a first-hand person that when I went to Mali finally and I watched how people learn, it's great. You know, it's totally like osmosis. There's no one teaches. There's a wonderful movie you can watch called Growing Into Music, Lucy Duran made, about this. And I think a lot of the teaching that you see happening is kind of for the camera. I don't think it would actually happen in real life. What I saw was that someone would go up maybe and show someone a bass line and then walk away again. But mostly, like Toumani learned from his dad's tapes. You know, he learned from listening, and yeah, it's much more about, and certainly no one's talking about like this is an E, this is an F, or like this is where the one is. Everyone's always going on about where's the one in that piece, and no one's counting in Mali, so no one knows who the one is. There's no such thing. So it's very much a language, I feel. And that's and kind of that's how I learned it as well, because I was learning little bits and writing them down and then taking them away and playing them, and it sort of was a great rehabilitation for me from written music. Can I ask you a question? Is that your dad next to you? No. No.
It's not.
No, it's not. Because when I'm not wearing my glasses, so I can't see so well. And I know you, so I thought maybe this was because we knew. All right.
Second to our. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It was so. I hear like so much, like beginner's mind is freshness in your playing. How do you keep that alive like, in the midst of all this, accomplishments, pressure?
We don't have accomplishment pressure in South Africa.
No?
Yeah, it's an American phenomenon. Yeah, it's very stressful. That's why I don't stay here for longer than a month.
Really? Seriously?
Of course, yeah, this place is mad.
It feels more free there in terms of being.
Well, no one gives a shit what you do. I mean, we don't have a music industry or anything, so you can do whatever you like. You know, no one cares. Yeah. So it's very nice. Yeah, I hated it for a long time that there was no place to play and nothing to look forward to, and nothing to but then I realized after many years of it that it was actually a blessing, it's a wonderful thing. Because you've got a lot of freedom to just, like I got interested in kora. I've met a lot of Americans who were interested in kora, and they got on planes and went to Mali, or they met people here who played the kora and they learned it from them. I got interested in kora and I just carried on listening to one record and to work it out for myself. So something else happens. So not having access can be a great thing.
I know you would like to go, but just a quick question, very quick, not as profound as the lady here. Yourself and Sissoko are going to be playing, you said?
Yeah.
And it's in March of next year?
Freight and Salvage, yeah.
That's the next available date in this area?
Exactly. Unless you come tomorrow and just pretend you have a ticket. Yeah.
He's going to be there tomorrow too?
No, he's not going to be there.
What time is this show?
He lives in Paris, so we're playing in Bordeaux and we're playing in Turkey together this month, but not here. But March we're going to do a 2-week tour of the US together.
What time is the show tomorrow?
I think it's at 7 as well. It's on my website.
Pacifica Cultural Foundation.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah, is it?
It's a small, it's nice.
Good, I've been worried.
Yeah. It's nice.
Derek, I got two questions. Is that the guitar that has the Segovia connection?
Yeah. It is. It's made by a guy called Hermann Hauser, who's a Bavarian guitar maker, and who made a guitar for Segovia in 1937, after copying very meticulously his guitar, which was Spanish. And he was making very good guitars in the German tradition. And the German guitars at that time sounded a little bit like they were coal-powered. They had this very sort of sewing machine-y feel to them. So he brought the Spanish thing, but then did the Teutonic, made everything work very well thing, and it was a great mix, I think, great collaboration. So the unpredictability was taken out, but the sort of sunlight was still there. So that's the Segovia connection.
Wow. And second question is, can you delve a little bit into something that you really go into a lot in the bio that
this bio that I'm reading, where you got this, it's amazing.
The thing that you talk about is sociological differences between what original composition is in Western culture compared to West African. Like here, we're such a litigious society, and plagiarism is a big deal. It doesn't, as far as I know, exist in West Africa. Can you discuss that?
Yeah, well, I don't think it existed anyway. It's like property, right? This is a new idea. You fence off something and you say it's yours, or you say this is my country.
Did everybody hear there?
So it's the same thing. It's just whoever arrived, and so in West Africa there was a kind of gold rush, I suppose, over the last 30 years, where people could say this is my composition and get the royalties for it. And for example, Toumani, everything he's recorded is not his in the sense of what we would consider his, but then his are very much unique. So it's like Bach's Chaconne. It's not his form, or even if he made something which is but in today's world, it wouldn't. Most of what Bach wrote might not have been considered the original composition as well. It's very, and so I feel that the creative thing is quite held now. It's not great. You have to worry that you're not copying a Beatles song or something.
So there's almost a blurring then between just improvising and composing, particularly in West Africa where it's not written down.
Yeah, well, these are made-up things. They don't exist, right? Improvisation, what is that even? It doesn't exist. Neither does composition. But there's a nice sort of trajectory. And I think when I met Toumani, he said, I want you to come and stay in my place and so you can hear the spontaneity of the music. And I said, oh, you mean improvisation? He said, no, the spontaneity. And then you go and you listen to some guy and he's playing Jarabi for 45 minutes and every note he plays but everything's different. And that's, I think, it's like a great lesson for classical musicians. You are playing the composition, but it's irreverent. It's like whatever. Anything goes. And then it becomes almost improvisation, but it's not like I'm being original in this moment. The Keith Jarrett thing of like, this is new, it's never happened before, because that's very like single monadic idea. Thank you very much.